All right, folks, and hello everybody to Uski and Herbie here on another beautiful Wednesday night. We are dancing on the ceiling, because it's week 3 of ACC football. I'm waiting for my partner in crime to join me. Tonight we are going to preview the Georgia Tech taking on Central Florida. Game that you guys voted on our Twitter page, 2 votes to none for that one. And also, we'll be previewing the Canes traveling to Louisville. I'm talking about the Miami Hurricanes going to Louisville for a big prime time game against the Cardinals. So it's going to be a great matchup this weekend of college football. Let's bring in my broadcast partner, Uski. His name is Ewan McCreef, who is down in the Charlotte office down there. So, Ewan, how's everything going down there? Folks, I hope everybody's having a great Wednesday. I was just playing some Lionel Richie, Dancing on the Ceiling, because that's for...
it's a classic, man.
Yeah, we're heading into week 3. Yeah.
Hello. I love Hello from Lionel Richie myself, my friend.
Exactly.
Dancing on the Ceiling, certainly a classic. You can't go wrong with either of them, really, Herbie.
No, you can't. Well, tonight we're going to preview the Georgia Tech taking on Central Florida after Georgia Tech knocking off my Seminoles last week down there in Tallahassee. I got to give Coach Neville, Mike Neville, a mulligan because this is his first game as Seminoles head coach. But I have to see what next challenge is. That it's the rivalry against Miami. If and I want to get on that teleconference call to explain to the guy, you are going to face Miami. That is your rival, and you need to knock them out.
Well, let's not just say that they lost to Georgia Tech. They had a 10-point lead. They shut them out. And quite frankly, in the second half was just a different kind of performance, Herb. But, hey, that's why they play the games.
Exactly. And we have Ken Sugiura, who covers the Georgia Tech Yellow Jackets, or the Jackets. They don't call them yellow anymore. They just call them Jackets. They got rid of the name yellow. Yeah. I realized that. I was like, that's weird.
Can you offend someone with the color yellow? I don't know. These days, right.
Well, we call them the Yellow Jackets because we're old school football people.
That's right. Some things should never be changed.
No, exactly. We'll talk to Pete Cronan, the guy from Boston College. Hopefully, he'll log into us shortly. He used to play for the Washington Football Club. Now it's called the Washington. It was the Washington Redskins. So we'll see what he thinks about the new name in DC. Plus he does Boston College football. And then coming up at right after that, here on the program, we have Tom D'Angelo, who writes for the Palm Beach Gazette. He'll be joining us. He'll talk Canes football. Canes going into Louisville for a big weekend of 7:30 on ABC between Miami, who is 1-0, against a 1-0 Louisville team. And the last time they went into Louisville, they got smoked out of Louisville.
They got blown out of the building, that's for sure.
Exactly. So we're going to talk to him as well. And then also we'll talk to Tom Wern, who is a good friend of ours. He's going to be doing the North Carolina game, North Carolina versus Charlotte. That's a big regional battle. We'll talk to him about that as well.
Regional battle, love it.
And then at 8 o'clock, we have Rick Bozich, who covers the Cardinals for WDRB Sports in Louisville. And then we have Adam Eaton, who covers the Central Florida Golden Knights, or the Knights, down there on the podcast. But speaking of former, Washington Redskin, or what do you want to call them now? Washington Football Club. Our friend Pete Curran's on the program. Pete, what do you think about that name, buddy? Do you like the football club, or you just stick to the Redskins?
Well, I never heard of a nickname that was meant to be derogatory.
Right. I agree.
And if you're interested in a little history, when they developed the nickname, George Preston Marshall was the owner, and they actually consulted with a local Native American tribe, and the logo, the Redskin logo, is actually the profile of the chief of that tribe. So, it's very, very insulting. Really?
Yeah, we can talk about the Braves. We can talk about the Braves, Indians, whoever. Like good Lord, so what? Old
I don't know their history, Chris, but I know a little bit about the Redskin history, and it's unfortunate, in my opinion.
So, how you been, Pete? How's everything going up there in the Boston area? I know I talked to you the other day on the phone. How's everything going?
Probably a lot like it's going on where you're at. This is the new reality we live in. It's bizarre, but the good news is football's back. This Big Ten's going to play because everybody else is playing. So that's
great news.
Good news. Yeah, that's great. More the merrier.
Yeah, and then you got the Pac-12 going to come right behind them because they're waiting for government officials to check something over for their health protocols.
I'm not sure California is going to fall in for college football, but who am I that I don't live there, so I don't know.
Exactly. Well, first game of the year for Boston College. It's kind of weird that you guys had a bye week last week, and now you're heading down to Durham to take on Duke. So, what's your take on did you watch any of the Duke game against Notre Dame last week?
Yeah, I watched it on live, and then I've watched it twice since. In today's world, it's a lot easier to prepare than it used to be. So I got a good idea of what Duke's up to and what Notre Dame was trying to do, and you got to kind of discount that opening matchup because it's the opening matchup. It's typically a little sloppy in college football because there are no preseason games, but now added the fact that the preseason was short-circuited due to COVID-19. I think for the first half of that football game was hard to draw any real conclusions. Second half was a little bit more like I think what people expected, but Duke certainly acquitted themselves. They showed that they can compete with what looked to be one of the better teams in the country.
Oh, Peter, let's just ask you. I mean, hey, you've watched plenty of film. What were your impressions of Chase Bryce and how he handled the Duke offense?
I thought he did a very good job of it, but with the exception, it has very little to do with him. No, they knocked him down 10 times, and they had 3 sacks. And that right there, you're talking about 13 attempts that he was thrown off balance and and so they're getting hit. So he was tough. I think he showed he's got a big gun. I was really not overly impressed with their receivers. They had a little trouble with the Notre Dame man coverage, but sort of Notre Dame with the Duke coverage. And I'm gonna write that off to kind of early in the season. But I thought he managed the game very well. He's a big athletic kid. Ran for a touchdown, threw the ball in great location. Had a couple of drops. He had one catch drop fumble, which was unfortunate. So I think he's the real deal there. And of course, we all know that Cutcliffe is the quarterback whisperer. So that's a dangerous combination.
I totally agree with you. It is a dangerous combination because you saw Cutcliffe throughout the years. He had Peyton Manning and his Eli and and everybody else. Even Daniel Jones was doing a fantastic job in New York with the Giants.
I think he has the ability to see. He's like a very good golf pro, an instructing pro. When you go and you hit, and those guys, the good ones don't try to change a lot. They just kind of tweak you and just get you out of some little bad habits. I think that's his strength. He doesn't overcomplicate things with these quarterbacks, and he allows them to make these adjustments that they end up thriving.
Yeah, I was listening to the press conference today from your new coach, Coach Hastley. I think I'm saying it right, but he hasn't picked a quarterback yet. So I guess he's having fun with the media up there in Boston, trying to second guess everybody because he was like on the video Zoom going, "Oh yeah, I told you it's on the roster," and it was pretty fun.
Well, I reverse engineered all that because I wanted to hear what Cutcliffe had to say, and listening to his press conference on Monday, he said it all. Boston College is an absolute enigma. They are really a complete unknown from a preparation standpoint. New head coach, lots of new personnel, new staff, obviously, new thinking, new scheme. Where Boston College, traditionally, you could load 9 in the box and play that defense all day, every week. I don't think that's even an option now. And I think it's very difficult for Duke and the coaching staff. They're going to have to place some bets on what they think Boston College is going to do. And a little footnote, you know how when they put a roster out, too deep out, they will have a position that might be competitive. And they'll say, Chris Heidel or Pete Cronan. So, it's a competitive position. It's not a definite who's going to start. Well, there are 30 positions represented on the Boston College 2 deep, and there are 24 of them are one of those either or categories. So wow. He's really playing the mystery card.
Yeah, Pete, I wanted to ask you. You mentioned, new offensive coordinator, new defensive coordinator, Jeff Hafley's first year. I'm wondering. It's spring ball is obviously limited, but what do BC fans expect to be different this year?
Well, I think you got to start with what's going to be similar, because given the circumstances, especially because of the abbreviated preparation time, the disruption, the 5-month disruption where they couldn't do anything, you got to believe it's going to be hard to get your system to the point where it's going to run smoothly. And even with a new coach, obviously, there's going to be issues, new techniques, so on and so forth. The one thing that strikes me as kind of obvious is Boston College under Steve Adagio is built to be a run offense. You don't undo that in 5 weeks. So, they'll be different. I think they're going to continue to be kind of run oriented because that's how they're built. But I also believe that they've got some weapons offensively that have not. They're basically unproven because they haven't played anybody. But they think they've got some real weapons offensively. At running back, at tight end, the quarterback position should be improved. The offensive line, you get 4 out of 5 back. You get a bunch of all ACC guys in that group. You can sit there and go, they should be pretty good. But what they're going to do, your guess is as good as mine.
Exactly. I agree with you. Well, talk about real quick that the transfer you guys got from Notre Dame, Phil Jurkovic. What type of person is that? Have you had a chance to see any film from him? I know during this whole COVID, nobody got a chance to go out to practice and see him personally. But what do you think about him?
Jurkovic.
Yeah.
So we have 3 times Jurkovic. And we're being well schooled on how to pronounce his name. But I went to 3 practices in the spring and then they shut it down. The first thing I noticed was he's impressive physically. He stands out. He's big. He's rangy. Long arms, and he's thick. He's got very thick legs. So he presents well. As they used to say in the olden days, he looks pretty good getting off the bus. He's got a very good arm, and he showed that he can put it in good locations. But again, 3 practices, and we were boycotted. Not boycotted. We were not allowed to go to practice at all during the preseason. They were completely cloistered. But the word is that he's got all the ingredients to be an excellent quarterback at the collegiate level. And if you look back in his high school history, he was one of the most prolific high school quarterbacks out of Pennsylvania. So he's got all the right moving parts. And the hope is, the belief is that the change in scenery might be just what the doctor ordered.
Hey, Pete, I wanted to touch on something you mentioned earlier about that offensive line. I'm a former offensive lineman. You get nothing done without the guys in the trenches. David Bailey, pretty good year last year. about 850 yards, 7 touchdowns. Because that offensive line comes back, do you see this guy maybe getting 1,200 yards of production? And just to kind of piggyback off of that, Pete, is, we always talk about returning starters. Well, BC returns 3 of their the primary wide receivers who led the team. But how can they use that experience to their advantage offensively?
I think that when you talk about Bailey, he was very talented, and when he did decide to go to Boston College, they considered that a coup. That was the next generation AJ Dillon. That's how they looked at him.
Wow.
And AJ obviously playing in the league now, second round draft pick for the Green Bay Packers, and he's got a lot of similar attributes that AJ had. I think the difference this year with Bailey is I don't see Bailey being a 25 to 30 carry a game back. I just don't think they're going to be their MO. But as far as athleticism is concerned, he's got all those same tools that AJ Dillon had. He's got downhill power. He's got the ability to make those little jump cuts in the hole. He's got acceleration speed once he breaks the plane, and he's a pretty good receiver. So this offense, I think, is going to be a little bit wider open and less predictable. And in doing so, they're going to probably try to use the backs as receivers. And Bailey has shown he can contribute that way. As far as the wide receivers are concerned, every year they seem to be getting closer to what ACC receivers look like. We're not completely there yet, but they do have some size, which they haven't had in the past, and they've got some speed, which they haven't had a lot of in the past. So I think just a general improvement at the wide receiver position. But again, it comes down to scheme. And when you talked, hold on a second. I got a note here. Where is it? Where did it go? Here it is. Boy, you talk about scheme. I don't know anything about these coaches either, except what I read. But you talk about Frank Signetti, the offensive coordinator. He's got a reputation to be a very smart guy. A good strategic thinker, and one of his attributes is that he'll play the hot hand. He'll experiment early in a game and find somebody who's got something going. He'll just keep going to them. So it's a little bit like the AJ Dillon philosophy is. Yeah, we're going to run him until you stop us, and nobody stopped them. I get a feeling that Signetti has got a little bit of that in him. If you find somebody who's got a hot hand, especially as wide receiver, I think they're going to get targeted quite a bit. And his attitude is, we're going to do it until you stop us.
Exactly. Well, that's a good old number 54 who used to play for the Washington Redskins and the Seattle Seahawks, Pete Cronan. Pete, thanks for joining us. And if you want to listen to him, he's on the Boston College ING Sports Radio Network. It's on the internet. It's probably on satellite radio. And have a safe trip to Durham, and we'll talk to you throughout the rest of the season.
Looking forward to it, Chris.
Thanks.
Back. Celebrate.
Yes, absolutely. Pop the coat. Come on, baby.
Yeah, that's right.
All right, Pete. Thanks, man.
See you later.
All right, folks. All right, that's Pete Cronan, who is a good friend of ours. From Boston College. Let's bring in another good friend of ours, Ken Sugiura, who covers the Georgia Tech Yellow Jackets, or are they just Jackets now, Ken? Are they just yellow?
I think they're still yellow. They're actually they're big on making sure it's gold, but they're still Yellow Jackets. I think they always will be.
Yeah. So thanks for coming on tonight. How's everything been down there in Atlanta? Because we haven't talked to you in a very long time.
Things are going good, kind of different like they had been everywhere else, I guess. But yeah, certainly a big win on Saturday, which I think caught a lot of people by surprise, myself included. So it's kind of changed a little bit the way things are looking for the rest of the season. I think we'll find out more Saturday.
Yeah, Ken, I can ask you something, Ken. I am blown away. Where Jeff Sims looks like an actual quarterback who can pass the football. I didn't know what to expect, but your impressions of this guy, the resiliency that he's shown, 2 interceptions in the first half. He comes back against, the Seminole defense. They're still going to have athletes because that's
Sims streaking down the sideline, and Ezzard.
Okay, so I missed the last part, but you're asking about Jeff Sims. Yeah, so he was an early enrollee. He's from Jacksonville. He actually was committed to Florida State. So actually that added a little kind of spice to the game Saturday. Yeah. But they were kind of keeping the quarterback competition under wraps for the spring, and they sent him out there. He looked about as good as you would hope. He didn't look at all like a freshman making his first start. I think you're expecting someone to be kind of skittish and chucking the ball as hard as he can and all those sorts of things. But he was poised and he stood in the pocket. He did make the 2 mistakes of throwing 2 interceptions early, but as you said, he came back and led in the second and put him ahead. So he's I think you heard a lot of good things about him during preseason, and then he up to pretty much everything. Obviously he got to keep doing it, but certainly a much better start than I think almost anyone could have imagined.
Exactly, Ken. Yeah, let's talk about Jordan Mason. I have a clip, but I don't know if the clip's working very well. But he's a very good running back. He brings back the old school of football. He used to have a good running game to go along with the passing game. He did some good rushing on Saturday on that 14-play drive. He got a touchdown, a 19-yard touchdown to cut the lead down to 3. Yeah, my fault.
Yeah, he's a terrific player. He got his chance to break out last year. He was an all ACC pick, and elusive and strong and kind of has some speed to him. So he and really 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 good vision. So he's hard worker and all the whole bit. So yeah, he's exactly what you'd want in a back. He can pass protect also and catch a ball in the backfield. So they depended on him a lot. He was probably their best player in the offense last year, him or Amarian Brown, the wide receiver. And he showed it again against the Seminoles.
Hey, Ken, different animal UCF. averaged points per game last year. For all that Florida State is, they're not what they once were, but UCF is just consistently in, the national picture. They're a program, obviously, that has been on the rise. How do you think Georgia Tech's secondary will hold up against this passing offense?
That's a good question. Obviously Dylan Gabriel, one of the top freshman quarterbacks in the country last year, comes back, and I think they were something like second in the country total offense. It's a much bigger test. James Blackman started out hot, but they tweaked some things defensively, and I think we're able to figure him out. So it's not just a secondary, but the entire roster is much bigger test, I think. But specifically the secondary, it's a good group back there. Zamari Walton had a really good game at cornerback for Georgia Tech, as did Spider Sims, and then they got 2 strong safeties in the back in Wande Thomas and Tariq Carpenter. So those guys will get tested. It's for the defensive line also, which did a better job of attacking the quarterback and getting pressure, a test for them. So it's you wouldn't have thought it this way in some ways. Just like you said, it's Florida State and their name brand school. But I think the stakes kind of rise, and now that after having beaten Florida State, you want to find out exactly how good is this team, and this will be a great measuring stick, I think.
Exactly. And Georgia Tech and Central Florida was supposed to play a couple of years ago, but there was a hurricane that came through, and it was supposed to be down in Orlando. That one's going to be made of what 2022, and then this one is
that's right.
And this one's a brand new one that came on the schedule because of everybody doing the non-conference game and all that stuff.
Actually, when they originally set this series up, it was a home and home, and I think it was 17, I guess. Yeah, 17, and that game got canceled. And I think they pushed back the return game, which would have been in Atlanta. So that turned out to be this year. And then now the second game of the series will be I guess 23. I think you're right. Whatever you said it was. But yeah, it's obviously UCF what they've done speaks for itself. I think they're 35-4 in their last 3 years, which is phenomenal. It doesn't matter what conference you're in. So yeah, it'll be a good series when this time and the next time the teams meet.
Yeah, Ken, I want to ask you, just because when I'm watching this game, I'm like 10-0. It used to be an insurmountable lead for Georgia Tech because they would just run the football. But in your estimation, is it possible to carry over not just the win, but how they won, in the fashion they won, albeit no fans, but still a road game, conference game? Is it possible to carry that momentum, not just for next week, but for the rest of the season?
I certainly think it gives you confidence. I mean, especially given that it's a young team in a lot of spots, and they were 3-9 last year, and so to go on the road. I mean, as you said, it wasn't a true road game, I guess, or a normal road game, but to come back and win, with all three facets really contributing, I think it will. Next time they're in this spot, which who knows, could be Saturday. They know, okay, we've done this before. We just got to dig in and keep playing and wait for things to turn around. So yeah, I mean, the momentum is kind of a tough thing to measure, but certainly I think having done this, certainly in the first game too, I think probably the offense. I'm sure they're looking at Jeff Sims as, hey, this guy's done it, and we can count him again. All we got to do is block, or all I got to do is run my route, and he'll do it for us. So yeah, I would suspect that this will pay dividends. Maybe Saturday, but certainly down the road.
Exactly. Well, Ken, thank you so much for coming on tonight, and
you bet.
I hope you enjoy the games. Are you going to the game Saturday? Well, I know everybody.
I'll be there.
Yeah. Good luck with the game, and hopefully you guys are safe and healthy. And
thanks.
That game's on. I think that game is 3:30 on ABC.
That's right, ABC. Yep.
Right before the Miami Louisville game.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. Well, thanks for having me on, guys. I really appreciate it.
All right, Ken. Thanks, man.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so Ken Sugiura, who writes for the Atlanta Journal-Constitution. I was trying to show you guys some some clips of stuff I found out. Real quick, this is Coach Collins talking about what Ken we just had on the show. He asked Coach Collins the same question that he asked us about Central Florida.
You're hoping to learn and then just level this test for you guys this week.
Yeah, and I think it goes back to our administration. There's a lot of things when the new schedule came out. We're going to play the ACC slate, and we get one out-of-conference game. And for our administration to recognize that this is a really good opponent, and a really good challenge, a big challenge for our program as we're still in the early phases of our ascendance, to have them on the schedule, understanding what the challenge is, and hoping that the culture, the things that we're working towards will be on display on Saturday against a big-time program that's won a ton of games. They've got great players, as I said. They've got great coaches, schemes, all of those things. I think that's a pretty good statement, from our administration. Our guys are excited to play such a good opponent, and just, the personal factor I talked about.
Yeah, what do you think about that? About playing Central Florida? He has a lot of praises for that.
Well, rightly so. But what I picked up on, Herbie, was we're going to start our ascension. We're going to a higher level here at Georgia Tech, and that includes playing the best teams in the country. And certainly, hey, they haven't won a national championship yet, but UCF has been right there. Whether it's down the stretch losing a game or not, the knock on their conference schedule when, everything before COVID. But, this is a great, and Ken mentioned it, it's a great measuring stick any way you look at it, Herbie.
Yeah, I agree with it. Well, let's bring in, we got to give a phone call to Tom D'Angelo. He's having a hard time getting on the server. I guess he's having problems down at Palm Beach, but we'll get him on right now here on the Uski and Herbie phone line.
Bad phone. Get him on the phone, Herbie.
Hey, Tom, it's Chris Idell and Ewan McCreeve of Uski and Herbie here in Baltimore. Thanks for coming on. Sorry that you couldn't get on the video part of it, but
I apologize. I'm terrible at this stuff. I'm barely just getting used to just clicking a button and getting on Zoom. Otherwise, I'm not very good at it.
Nice. Well, first question I got to ask you about King. You know, the quarterback transfer you got from Houston. Real quick, for the folks for us on video here. I found some clips on the ACC portal today, about King and how he ran against UBA, Alabama and Birmingham. Hold on 1 second.
67 yards on the drive so far. It's Harris. Harris busting into the end zone for a touchdown. Ran for 94 yards.
So just talk about King. He's like he looks like he brought a different style of quarterbacking that you guys haven't had in a long time. I think Brad Caio was the last one, right?
Yeah, it's been a long time since we had any kind of offense resembling this. In fact, really hasn't ever had an offense resembling this one. And that's why Manny Diaz brought in Rhett Lashley, and then they got King as a transfer from Houston. It's just more of a wide open. With his athleticism, it really helps in a lot of ways. Number one, they're not great on the offensive line. You have an athletic quarterback, it can make up for a lot of problems up front, and his escapability it can help an offensive line. But secondly, just what we saw on the ground. Last week they rushed for 337 yards. Last year they averaged 118. They were 120th nationally.
Wow.
So I think everybody expected, and it's still going to come. I think the passing game will get better. Derek was a little bit amped up. He overthrew a couple of guys early. You could tell it just being his first game at Miami. The adrenaline was flowing early, but he settled down a little bit. When that gets going, when that passing game gets going, and with the running of De'Aaron King and Cameron Harris, 134 yards, that's exactly what they've been looking for here. It's been a long time. There's been the fans have just been screaming to do something with this offense. It's been kind of stuck in the mud for a while. This can really boost it, and De'Aaron King he's the engine. He's the guy that's going to change this entire look of this entire offense.
Wow. Hey, Tom, Ewan in the Charlotte office, I've heard coaches say, week one is a feeling out process, and then we have so much to teach from week one to week two. What are some areas that Manny Diaz is concentrating on to improve from last week's win against UAB to this week's challenge against Louisville?
Well, number one, I think they're going to want to get the receivers involved a little bit more. 16 completions last week. Like I said, not all. It's just a combination of things. They weren't. There were some overthrows. There weren't a few. There were a few where they just weren't on the same page, and to be expected that with the year we've had and not being on the field all summer with these guys, or most of the summer, not having a spring season with them, which is vital for. Look, I think that the programs that probably are feeling it the most right now are the programs that have new coaches, new quarterbacks, new offenses, because they didn't have that time in the spring with each other. So I think that's going to come, but that's probably what I'm sure this week in practice, which that they worked on some of that timing, and they are getting a little bit more familiar with his receivers, and offensively also is just the offensive line has been an issue for a while here, and I would think they're hoping game to game it improves. He's already made one change at left guard. He's made a change. There's going to be a new starter there, so I think that's going to be that's going to be pretty fluid, the offensive line. I think we may see changes here and there as they try to settle in and find the five best, and that's defensively. It's just a whole new game. They're in for a completely different game with Louisville's skill and Louisville's explosiveness on defense. Nothing you saw from UAB will resemble what Louisville can do. So I think just getting that defense comfortable, getting the defensive ends to put pressure on Cunningham. I think that'll be the main thing they want to see more. They want to see probably a little bit more pressure on the quarterback. I think they had one sack last week. So those are some of the things right there.
Yeah. Well, Tom, the last time the Canes went to Louisville was Louisville's first game in the ACC, and some guy named Al Goldie was the head coach, and it didn't end pretty because it was really bad. Bad. I guess you guys call it down in Miami the massacre in Louisville because it was very very not Miami like that evening.
Yeah. Yeah, I wasn't at that game, but I'll tell you what, after Al Golden and Randy Shannon and a few other guys, there's been a lot of those games lately. One of the biggest stories of kind of it's not talked about a lot, but Miami's been in the ACC, I think it was 16 years, and they have yet the ACC title. When Miami went to the ACC, they purposely put Miami and Florida State in opposite divisions because the ACC envisioned a national matchup, but with all eyes on an ACC championship game with national implications every year, and the loser also being involved in kind of national championship comp because they thought they were getting two of the elite programs in the country. Well, Florida State has held their part for the most part. Last 3 years, no, but until that, they've held up their part. They won a national championship. They've won 4 or 5. They've won at least 6 since Miami got in. Miami has yet to win an ACC title, so Miami has not pulled this weight with the ACC.
Right.
And that game, there's been a lot of them, and that's that's been the big issue here, and that's why they were hoping. That's what they're doing, hoping bringing back a guy or bringing in a guy who's a favorite son who knows about the history of this program and Manny Diaz to help turn that around.
All right. Tom, I wanted to ask you, you mentioned Mikal Cunningham, the Louisville Cardinal quarterback. When I watched that game, it just seemed like the young man settled in early. He's got a great arm. 250 yards and 3 TDs. How important do you think it's going to be to kind of, and he also was accurate rolling outside the pocket. How important will it be, particularly early, that the Canes disrupt his rhythm and put a little pressure on him?
I wrote about the defense today and what they've been saying, and the first thing every one of them to a man says they need to stop the running game first to have success against the passing game, and that's not like. They'll say this most every game, and most defenders will say the key to a good defense is stop the run, because if you don't stop the run, that opens up the passing game. And with this team, it's opened up with the athleticism and the game breakers and the explosiveness they have, and then a lot of not just the running backs, but the receivers coming back, and especially Tutu Atwell. They have to stop. I think they've got to get. They're not necessarily caught up on how many of the sacks, and Manny said that today. We're not looking at necessarily how many times they put the quarterback on the ground, but how many times they pressure him. And I think what he's telling them is, let's make them uncomfortable in the backfield. Let's get pressure on them, make them uncomfortable, and that's where it starts. And if you start there and you stop the running game, then you can have some success against these guys. But because if you don't, and they just get those guys going, it can be a long night for Miami.
Yeah. Well, and also the other thing is, folks, we got Tom D'Angelo with us from Palm Beach, Florida. He works at the Palm Beach Post down there. I think you guys, another thing is the special teams. It's not good for Miami. They used to be very good with the field goals and the block punts and the kickoff returns, and they've been lacking that the last couple of years. It's just because of the talent. Now, because you got Central Florida, trying to get their stuff, and you got FIU down next to you guys. Is it just everybody just trying to get the same players?
Well, it is. It has been. That's a great point, because the last few years it's been horrendous. Last year, I will say, special teams is so many different legs of special teams, so to speak. And KJ Osborne, they had a very good return game last year. In the kickoff and punt returns, KJ Osborne was the main reason. He's a transfer, and he's a graduate, so he played 1 year. But their kicking game was not very good, and they're hoping they solve that. It's funny because their field goal kicker played last year at FAU. Now, remember, FAU had this greatest winning program last year, when they upset Miami. They were playing that game at Marlins Park, and it got so bad, and it was just for the University of Miami, it was as crushing a loss as ever, not just because of who it came to. And if they use 7-8 miles right down the road from UM, and they're the poor stepchild when it comes to football programs in that city. And they left that game calling themselves the University of Miami and calling Miami the University of Coral Gables. So that didn't sit well with the University of Miami. But so they went and they got the transfer Jose Morales, and he made his only field goal. They seemed really pleased with him in the preseason. And they have their punting game was pretty good last year. They have a solid punter who came over from Australia, Lou Headley. So they are, seem to be making improvement there. But to your point, yes, the problem with one of the big issues with Miami over the last decade or so has been it not being able to keep the homegrown talent home. And I don't mean just going out of schools in the state, but I mean guys going to Alabama, guys going to Georgia, guys going to Clemson. There's been a lot of really good players. Look at Alabama's receivers and Ridley and those guys. There's 3 or 4 Alabama receivers. But 3 Alabama receivers with first-round picks have come from South Florida.
Wow.
So they in Florida State's had a few. Dalvin Cook, the Miami kid, from Florida State, the early 2 did, and around he graduated in 2013, 2014. So you've had they have not been able to keep the homegrown talent home, and that's been a big issue with UM and a big issue with the fans is keeping these guys around. Next year's the 2021 class, I believe there's somewhere 18 to 20 guys, and he's already in double figures with guys from the 3-county area where I am in Palm Beach, Broward, and Dade.
Mm-hmm.
So he seems to be making inroads, and again, that's another reason you keep a guy. They have a coach who knows the area, who grew up here, who coached here, who has Miami in his blood, just to go to the old Orange Bowl and watch games. So that has to help, and he knows the coaches. So that's a big part of getting this back to the way they were in the heyday is keeping some of these 4- and 5-star guys home and making sure they don't get away from South Florida.
Exactly. I agree. And I think Miami needs, and truthfully, I think Miami needs a home ballpark because the Orange Bowl was there. Yeah, a couple minutes away from the campus. Now everybody you got to get on a bus to go to, Hard Rock Cafe.
That ship has sailed. That's not. I mean, there's not even any room there. That won't happen.
Right.
I mean, they're going to be at Marlins Board. They're going to be at Hard Rock Stadium for as long as they play football. I mean, they had their chances, but it's been a long time since they had even started discussing that and putting some kind of home field, putting some kind of field or venue on the campus, but there's no room there anymore. It's built out. So that's just the way it's going to be. But yeah, you're exactly right. They're on, I guess, UCLA, when you think of some of the major programs where their home field is, 15 miles away. It's probably about 15 miles up to Hard Rock Stadium. It's on the Broward-Dade border. UCLA is one of them, but there aren't many. And that you're asking a lot of the students. You're right, and it does affect attendance.
Yeah. Well, Tom, thank you so much for coming on tonight. And are you making the trip to Louisville, or are you going to stay home and watch the game?
I'll be here. I'll be doing all the home games this year.
Mm-hmm.
There's going to be a few road trips that we're going to be taking. When the way things are now, actually, you can cover games as well from your living room as you can be in there with the way they're set up. The press conferences after the game, and they send it all to the local media, the Zoom, and we get what we need. So I'll be I'll be here, and I'll be they've got 6 home games, and those are the times I'll be doing it in person. Otherwise, I'll be in front of my television, trying to write what I can off the TV, which I think is the way a lot of us, which is probably 90% of our business right now for everything, including professional sports, college sports, all of it.
Exactly. Well, Tom, thanks for going on, and have a great weekend, and we'll talk to you soon.
Hey, I appreciate it, guys. Sorry about the mix-up, but I'm glad I was able to hook up with you, and you guys have a great night. Thanks.
No worries. Thanks, Tom.
All right, Tom.
Yeah.
Thanks. All right, bye. Well, that was Tom D'Angelo from the Uski and Herbie film. You know,
Herbie, I thought it was a really good, question with all the recruiting and all the Florida schools. Miami used to be so explosive on the special teams, and hopefully they'll have something planned because that Louisville punter dropped 2 perfect snaps that led to 14 points from Western Kentucky. So they've got to have something, a punt block or something to get in and rattle him even more.
Right, exactly. Well, I got the audio. Like you said, now everybody's on Zoom and you can listen to all that. So Coach Diaz was asked this afternoon or yesterday about Louisville. How this game is going to be a big game. College game day. It's not college game day we know from last year when everybody's brothers showing up.
Yeah, that was awesome, Herbie.
Yeah, it's the decap version of college game day. Yeah. So this is what Coach Diaz had to say about going to Louisville.
You can see year 2 and being in a system for the first time. I think it's 5 years. It's the first time that Louisville's had a defensive coordinator, the same defense coordinator in back-to-back years. Their kids are a lot more confident, playing very aggressively. They're much more multiple than they were a year ago. They tackled outstanding for an opener. And again, very much like the UAB Central Arkansas game, the score was a little bit misleading because Western Kentucky really benefited from some really beneficial field position. So our guys will be very excited to play Louisville on a Saturday night, college game day. Here we go, week 1 in the conference.
Yeah, that's what he says. Well, here we go, week 1 in the conference. And if you're Miami, you need to get off a good. You got to get off a good rapport because if you beat Louisville, you got next week.
Mm-hmm. Well, Herbie, I'm in.
Knocking on your doorstep.
Did you watch? Were you able to see the Louisville quarterback play? Did you see some of those highlights? I mean, the guy looked comfortable. He looked like a pretty good, accurate passer, and he can use his legs. So, I think Miami's going to have their hands full. It should be noted that Louisville is a 2.5-point favorite against the Canes. So they expecting a close ball game, and quite frankly, so am I, Herb. Should be a good one.
Yeah, and this game was originally supposed to be 3:30, but because of Virginia and Virginia Tech was supposed to be the primetime game, but they had a situation with COVID at Virginia Tech, so that game got canceled, and they brought Miami and Louisville in. And this is what we're going to see the rest of the year, and we're going to have issues like that no matter where we go. You're going to have people going down to Florida playing, Florida State, Miami. But the thing is, they're not going to be bringing out who's going to be affected by it. It's just going to be somebody has it. They're not going to put their names out there.
Yeah, and really, nor should they. I mean, it's quite frankly. I mean, let's face it. The Big Ten's coming on board late. That's the big news of the day. It is awesome to have the major conferences all playing at the same time. So, kudos to the Big Ten. And quite frankly, Herb, there's not a really big threat of COVID for. And I think a commentator said it on Fox Sports, Joe Klatt. He said, college, unless they have pre-existing conditions, people of that age, men and women, or young people, are not really at risk. So play football.
Right. And I like what and it's getting to the point that I know we've been talking about it all year long. It's the flu. I know people are going to give me an email saying it's not the flu, it's something else, but it's the flu with a little barbecue sauce on it, and it might get a little.
That's got to be the quote of the year, and we're only in week 2.
Hey, I was just trying to give people, an easy way to think of it. It's a flu with a little kick in the back.
Exactly. Yeah. You're right. I mean, look, less than 10,000 Americans have died from it. We don't get political on this show. It's a sports show, but play football already. Come on. Enough with it,
And I really seriously think this is between you and we're going to talk about it real quick before Tom joins us. But I think the Big Ten was waiting for the ACC and the Big 12 and see how they handled it.
I completely agree with you, Herbie. It was a feeling out process, and I'm telling you, the heat came on. I mean, did you see all the parents outside of Ohio State, protesting that they should? I mean, those protests are happening all over Big Ten schools. So now Buckle up your chin straps, baby. Let's get down to brass tacks.
Exactly. And we have to give a real quick to President Trump thanks for helping out the Big Ten.
Yes. Yeah. He had that phone call. I told you he was going to hammer it down. I told you. Big Ten football's coming back, baby.
Exactly. So we're waiting for Tom. Tom, our good friend. I think, how do you say his last name? Warren?
Yeah, I'm not. Yeah.
Yeah, that's funny. So many times. So anyway, he's going to come on. He's going to be doing North Carolina and Charlotte. Yeah, that's going to be a nice local game for everybody there in the Charlotte.
Listen, Herbie, Charlotte gave App State all they could handle for 3.5 quarters. They played tough football. App State was a nearly, I want to say, a 20-point favorite in that game. A late touchdown pushed it. But, they played tough. And, Charlotte is, I'm going to go ahead and say it. They're an up-and-coming program, obviously fairly new to Division I. But the 49ers, and give them kudos, they're not scheduling cupcakes. And we'll see what happens. Should be a good ball game.
Yeah, look at their schedule. They have North Carolina, and then they play Duke in 2 weeks.
Yeah,
I love like, come on, we'll play them. Come on, we'll play them.
The 49er campus is about 20 minutes away from me. Their their defense, App State is kind of the I won't say the class of North Carolina, but they've certainly made a big name for themselves up in the mountains, up in Boone.
Right, exactly. Hey, North Carolina is a great state for football. You got a lot of programs, coming up. You got from Appalachian State to Elon to Charlotte, and not the old days when it's just North Carolina State, Wake Forest, Duke. Right.
Well, Herbie, I wanted to ask you something. Not only are you a fan of Florida State, but we really didn't touch on their loss as much as we did touch on it and talk about Georgia Tech's win. How do you feel about that loss? Obviously, couldn't get anything done in the second half. A pretty good start. Defense, I thought, played well. But, what are your thoughts on where is this program going? How deflating can it be to lose a game like that when you're seemingly in control? 10 points is not a lot. Right. But, what do you think about the program this year?
We have this new coach, and, yes, he came from Memphis. Okay, I was talking to my mother, he's like, Memphis? I'm like, Memphis has a football team now. And she's like, oh, okay. Yeah.
You gotta love my Dukes, man.
My mom's like, Memphis, and I was waiting for her. She got this Elvis play, Yeah. But I got to give him. And people asked me this week, like, should I be? Yes, I'm upset we lost. You don't lose at home, no matter what. It's like the Ravens. You don't lose at M&T Bank Stadium by a field.
Protect this house.
Yeah, you got to protect it. Even the Carolina Panthers. They got to protect the house, down there in Bank of America. But last week it was basically a lot of weather from the storm of, I guess, one of the hurricanes were coming up. They had a 2-hour, basically the first half they were in a rain delay for 2 hours. It was great. And I was listening to our good friend Gene Deckenhoff on the some of the ING Sports Radio Network for Florida State, and he was trying to keep people entertaining.
Hey, you can do that.
All the stuff I got to ask him off this program that kind of like went from a borderline, like, whoa, Gene, you got to calm it down, buddy. Yeah.
Oh, we got to get Gene on. Are you kidding me?
Yeah, well, Gene does a lot of stuff during the day, so maybe we can do a afternoon next Wednesday or something with him and see you and I can tape it or something like that. And talk
or we can, have him on our first guest in the new studio.
Yeah, we can do it live. Yeah, we can do it live. But anyway, Blackman is the senior quarterback. Yeah. He looks like, okay, he has some spots that he looks like he's improving, but the last pass of the game, he looked like just like the Sun Bowl when he threw it behind the guy with 4th and 12. You don't put the ball behind the guy. You got to make sure you throw it right through his hands so he can get the first down. And it's just, and yes, we only had 16,000 people there because that's what the COVID thing is allowed at Tallahassee. Yes, it wasn't full and wasn't, but the fans did a great job trying to make it loud.
I thought they did too, Herbie. So is it safe to say that I mean, in terms of the progression that James Blackman has done, or has lack of progressed, you're a little disappointed? I mean, they had some opportunities in the second half, but they just didn't capitalize on them.
No, and the defense played really well. They blocked a couple field goals and
3.
Yeah. So that was good. That was the old defense from what I used to see with Jimbo and with Bobby Bowden.
Special teams was lights out for them.
Yeah.
I mean, 3 blocked kicks, that's insane. No one blocks 3 kicks. But yet, I mean, Herbie, I don't want to pour salt on the wound, but a 10-point lead, you block 3 field goals, and you still lose the football game.
Hey.
That's tough.
That's why I did not talk to people on Sunday.
Well, who do we got coming up on the show, Herbie? On the Houston show?
I guess Tom forgot to join us, so we'll get him down the road. We're waiting for Rick Bozich, who writes for the Cardinals for WDRB in Louisville, Kentucky. So hopefully he'll join us shortly. It's 7:58 here, almost the top of the hour. Yeah, but let's talk about the other games, too, coming up during the whole week here. We got other non-conference games going on. You got the Battle of South Carolina between the Citadel and Clemson. How many points will Clemson have at the end of the first quarter? Is it going to be 35, 45, or 65?
Oh, my goodness. You know what, Herbie? First of all, I love that the Citadel is getting a paycheck. Let me just say that. I mean, besides the armed forces, the Citadel, they pump out tons of patriots that fight for our country. So kudos to them. The beatdown that will ensue will only make them better. Yeah. And I'm going to say Clemson scores over 30 in the first half, easy.
Yeah, and then I think Dabo Sweeney will bring somebody out of the crowd, like our good friend Trevor, to be the quarterback.
Yeah, let's look at some other conference games, Herbie, and look. I mean, if we do kind of the round robin, let's talk a little bit about North Carolina. Sam Howell looked pretty good in that second half. They were challenged early. But they pulled away late from Syracuse. Syracuse does not look good at all. I think Tommy DeVito is, there was a lot of hype surrounding him last year, Herb. And we got a chance to talk to the young man, and he's brimming of confidence, but it just hasn't translated into production on the field. I don't know what's, I have to tell you, if it continues like this, I don't think Dino Babers makes it to the end of the season. And I think there needs to be a quarterback change.
Yeah, well, they got to find somebody to go, because they had Eric Dungy for 9 years.
Yeah, and we talked about that a couple of shows ago that Dino Babers without Dungy, his record is horrible.
Right.
I mean, it's close to 40, 30%, something like that. But there's trouble in upstate New York because the Orange are not. They're not even very competitive. They were competitive for a half, and then the wheels came off. North Carolina imposed their will. But, I don't think that the future is very bright for the Orangemen.
Right, exactly. And another game coming up, Orange is actually going to Pittsburgh this weekend and play the Panthers. So that's going to be an interesting game because the Panthers put 45 points on the Governors of
I love the Governors, man. We've got to go to a Governors game sometime. I don't even know where Austin P is. Where is it?
It's down south. It's down in Tennessee. I'll go to Tennessee.
Yeah. You got to stop working. You got to stop working so much and come break bread with me down in North Carolina, pal.
Exactly. That's why I'm saving up the old bread to break bread with you, so I have money to break bread.
Make it rain, Herbie.
Exactly. So let me text. See who's coming out. Another game playing this weekend. NC State starts their season against Wake Forest. Wake Forest had a tough matchup last week against Clemson, hung in there until they had some guy named Trevor Lawrence just took it over.
Yeah, I got to tell you, Herbie, I like and we'll talk about my locks later, but I like teams that have a little film already. Even though Wake did not play well, they can look at their mistakes, they can work on those things, as opposed to NC State. Actually, let me repeat that. I just feel like the competitiveness against a Clemson kind of prepares Wake a little bit more to come play the Wolfpack. But another interesting game. Wake did not show a lot. I mean, Clemson, we just know that they're just a different animal. So it's really kind of, quite frankly, it's hard to gauge where any team is at, because I expect Clemson to roll by 30 from everybody. But, a couple late touchdowns, they didn't cover the point spread. I mean, a 20-point win for 20-plus point win for Dabo. They're just going to keep on rolling.
Exactly, and I feel like, and what's the name? Clemson is a machine, dude. That's a machine up there, and it just keeps on pumping out the great talent that Dabo Swinney, finds in his recruiting. Do you feel like if Clemson wins another national championship, do you feel like Dabo Swinney is going to go to the next level and be an NFL coach?
You know what? Considering I think he's the third highest paid college coach, I'm not too sure on that. I know he's in the top 5, but I don't really think so. I think, he has enough challenges at Clemson. He actually can go into a recruit's house and be like, he does the program sells itself, Herb. So
right.
Do you want to play for a national championship? Come play with us. If you don't, watch us on TV. I mean, that's basically, and he's got the perfect situation. And not just that, Herbie, I want to just emphasize this. The loyalty of his assistant coaches cannot be overstated. These guys can go anywhere they want. They can coach, and they could probably get a head coaching job, but they choose to stay. Brett Venables, a perfect example, highest paid defensive coordinator, earns every penny of it, and he's comfortable. So, I think the beat goes on in Clemson.
Yeah, well, speaking of Clemson, they had somebody last year who is now the coach at South Florida. I think Smith is his name. That's another Dabo Swinney disciple going to South Florida to see if he could turn South Florida around, because I guess Charlie Strong couldn't do it.
Yeah, we'll see. There's a lot of first-name coaches, and let's see how they adapt to their new programs. But the ACC is only getting better. I'm really excited. I got to tell you, Herb, that Louisville quarterback, I don't want to get too ahead of myself, but he looks good. He looks fluent throwing the football. He made his reads. I think Cunningham could have a pretty good season this year. And, if it weren't for those 2 muffed punts, Louisville would have dominated the game and won by 30.
Exactly. Well, we having I guess Streamer is having a technical difficulty tonight getting our guests on. We have to go to the Uski and Herbie phone line again.
Hotline?
Yeah, the hotline. Yeah, I sound like I feel like Cousin Brucey, from up in New York. The old disc jockey. Let's go to the Cousin Brucey hotline. Yeah, not really. So, let's get our good friend Tom on the line. So, folks, we do apologize because of the technical difficulties.
Hello.
Hi, Rich. How you doing? It's Chris Idell from Herbie Radio in Baltimore, and Uski is down in Ewan McCree is down in Charlotte. So, thanks for taking some time. Sorry for the technical issues here.
I just couldn't figure out how to get it to work, so probably me.
It's all right. We'll fix it. I'll get you on another time. I'll teach you how to get on, and we'll have it all and make sure work next time. So it's okay. Rick Bozich.
It's Rick Bozich.
Bozich. Okay, and then you write and you're part of the WDRB Sports in Louisville.
WDRB.
Yeah, in Louisville. So basically, just talk about this big game. College game day coming to town. It's not the college game day that we see last year with, everybody wearing, signs and, and the lawns getting trampled and all that stuff because of the COVID situation. How many people are going to be there? Is it going to be lower than what they had at Wake Forest, or what's the deal?
In terms of the college game day situation, I don't think any fans are going to be allowed. In terms of the game, last week when Louisville played Western Kentucky, they allowed 12,000 fans. So I anticipate that's what it'll be again this week for the Miami game. So 12,000, I think it's 20% of capacity, so 12,000 I'm expecting on Saturday night.
Yeah, I was kind of impressed with, I think you pronounce his first name, Macau Cunningham. Obviously Western Kentucky is not going to send a lot of defensive players to the NFL, but talk about your impressions of him week one. He really looked comfortable in the pocket. I thought his accuracy outside the pocket was really good, his pocket presence. What were your impressions of him week one?
Yeah, I think he's one of the most underrated quarterbacks in the country, actually. I mean, everybody in the ACC talks about Trevor Lawrence, as they should, and Sam Howell in North Carolina. But if you look at his numbers last year, they were solid. And he came here, and he was here for the last year of Lamar Jackson. He and Lamar are really good friends, text all the time. And nobody as Lamar, he plays a little bit the same way Lamar does in terms of his maneuverability, his escapability. He's a good passer, not a great passer, but he doesn't make bad plays, and he can create something out of nothing. And he's a guy who really benefited when Bobby Petrino was here. Bobby Petrino kind of favored this guy named Juwan Pass, who was a bigger, more of a downfield thrower. And when Scott Satterfield came in before last season, Macau Cunningham is a guy who rose to the top of the depth chart and was very productive last season.
Exactly. And you talk about Lamar Jackson. We're here in Baltimore, and
Right.
the folks here in this area is loving him. They forget a guy named Cal Ripken wore number 8 before Lamar Jackson. So it's really interesting how Lamar just completely took over the city and here in Baltimore with all the stuff he does, and he still feels, and he looks like he's still grounded towards his mother, who helps him out.
Yeah, I mean the same thing that happened here. I mean his first year, he played quite a bit, but he split the job with a couple other people, and then the next year was his Heisman year, and he just had great game after great game after great game. Early in the year, he had that game against Syracuse where he made the leap, and then interestingly enough, it was his third game that College Game Day came to Louisville for the first time ever when Louisville played Florida State, and Lamar led Louisville to a 63-20 win, and after that, the Heisman was his to win, and he won it, and then came back the next year and played really well again, but Louisville wasn't quite as good the next season, and he wasn't able to repeat as the Heisman winner, but Lamar is, I've been here since 1978, and he's far and away the most popular Louisville football player of all that time, and really the only basketball player who I can think is more popular is probably Earl Griffin. So Lamar's he's an idol here. They'll do a statue of Lamar here one day.
When I watched that game, and particularly the special teams, which were, the punter for Louisville, I'd like you to comment on that. But I wanted to ask you, points of emphasis from week 1 to week 2, where do the Cardinals have to improve the most?
Well, obviously special teams. The special teams were terrible. They lost Nathan King, who was a 4-year punter, and it showed mishandling snaps, and just really you give credit to Western Kentucky's 3 touchdowns to poor special team play. But I think the other area that we have to improve on, and it'll be critical, is defensive line play. They were good, not great. They gave up some pretty big runs by Western Kentucky's quarterback last week. The kid that transferred from Maryland, I think his name's Pigrom. Is that correct?
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah. And this week they go against De'Aaron King of Miami, who transferred in from Houston and is another dual threat guy. And Miami shredded. Last year, Louisville went to Miami in early November. I was at the game. They lost 52-27. It really wasn't that close, and Louisville just couldn't stop Miami from they threw 6 touchdown passes. They couldn't slow their offense down at all. So you got to stop the run, and they got to get a pass rush. That'd be the area I would look at.
Yeah. Well, people don't realize the last time Miami went to Louisville, it was 2014. It was actually the first season for the Cardinals in the ACC, and they didn't have a great time there in Louisville that Thursday night. It was I think it was like a rainy night, and Al Golden and the Canes couldn't even get anything going, and it was like a big coming out party for Louisville.
Yeah, that was a magical night. Louisville's first game in the ACC, which if you know much of the history of Louisville baseball program, you know that to think of Louisville getting to the ACC 10 or 15 years ago was sort of a dream. It's not the kind of a program that had the national stature we thought, get them into the ACC, but they not only got in the ACC, but they succeeded, and I'm pretty sure it went up the first game of Bobby Petrino. Mm-hmm. When in his second go-round here, and it was just a special night, and Louisville played well, and Miami didn't, and, this is going to be a totally different night because the crowd won't be the same, and it's a different situation, but it's a big game, I think, from the standpoint of when you look at the ACC, what they're going to do this year, there's not playing divisions. It's just going to be
the old
15 teams, and the top 2 teams go to the conference championship game, and you can be fairly certain that Clemson will be one. But Louisville and Miami and North Carolina and Notre Dame are probably the 4 top contenders for the second spot. So this is in some ways a critical game for both these teams if they want to have a chance to get to the ACC title game.
Exactly, Rich. And also, this is the old school way of the ACC because I've been hanging out in the ACC since I was like a child. And before they went to the divisions, they had like this a group of teams, and this is like the old school way of things. I think they should have I think they should have keep the old school way, not the Atlantic. I agree. The problem that the ACC's had, in my opinion, and I've only been covering it since 2014 when Louisville went in, is that the divisions have been out of balance because Clemson and Florida State have been so dominant that the Coastal Division really hasn't risen up to have the same stature as the Atlantic Division. And, Miami and Virginia Tech, you could even argue those 2 teams haven't been what the ACC needed. And so, I think this year, the way that with Notre Dame coming in, and I think this is the perfect way to do it, and I think it should be a fun race to the end. Exactly. Well, Rich, is going to be a great game this Saturday night. It's at 7:30 on ABC. Chris Fowler, Kurt Herbstreit, the gang's all going to be there.
I guess Corso's the only one that doesn't travel. Is that right?
I think Corso has his own desk in his own house.
Yeah.
Corso used to coach here. Do you remember that?
I read I have the media guides. Yeah, I was reading that.
Corso got his start here, and when they played that first game, the college game they did in 2016, the Lamar game against Florida State, it was very emotional for him to come back, and he's still beloved here because when he was the coach, he took him to a minor bowl game, and he kind of got the program some momentum, and then it was Howard Schnellenberger that carried it on through.
Exactly. Well, Rich, thanks for coming on, and we'll work on down the road. We'll get you on when you guys play Florida State, and we'll get you on. We'll get you on the video.
Okay. Thank you.
All right, Rich. Thanks for coming on. All right. Bye. So that was a very interesting conversation there, Ewan. So I know you have.
What's your ACC lock of the week? I'm going to tell you mine. I think Georgia Tech rides momentum. They're 8-point under, 7.5-point underdogs from Central Florida. I say take the Yellow Jackets. Sims is the real deal. I think UCF's defense, although we don't have any film on them, I think they could be exploited. This guy has got the arm to do it. UCF, closer than the experts think.
Well, speaking of that, we got the guy from Central Florida on real quick. I know you have to run. So Adam Eaton, who runs a podcast for Central Florida, the Sons of Central Florida. So Adam, thanks for joining us tonight. How's the weather down there in beautiful Orlando, Florida? Because I know when I call Orange Lake down there, it's a wonderful day at Orange Lake.
Yeah, weather's good. We got a little hurricane in the area per se, but nothing we can't handle down here in Florida.
you're used to that. Yeah,
it's a normal Tuesday for us.
Yeah, exactly.
Hey, Adam, this team has been a machine the last couple of years. Any reason to think, at least offensively, I mean, over 40 points per game last week, any reason to think that this offense stumbles a little bit this year?
No, not really. I think, we returned a ton of talent from the team last year, right? So true freshman quarterback last year, now a true sophomore, Dylan Gabriel, threw over 3,500 yards, 29 touchdown passes. This kid's the real deal. He's legit. He's got a great arm. Year one, I think we kept the training wheels on a little bit. On the offensive side, we lost one key player. Gabe Davis now plays for the Buffalo Bills. He's tough to replace, but we've got a stable of weapons in the backfield and out wide. Dylan Gabriel really just needs to get the ball in those guys' hands. The key is going to be the offensive line. We struggled there mightily last year. If the line can't hold up, we're going to have problems. UCF is a team offensively. If we get off schedule, we've got problems, right? If we get negative plays, if we have a false start, we have a penalty, we get off schedule, we have problems. If they get on schedule and they get the tempo rolling, this offense will be tough to stop. Now, some defenses can obviously scout some tape, and Heupel, our head coach, runs kind of the Baylor system. So if you guys are familiar with the Baylor offense back in the day, it's beatable if you have the right scheme. And we lost 3 times last season, so it's not impossible. But I think if we get rolling with the depth we have and the playmakers we have, we are pretty tough to stop.
Yeah, your quarterback went down last year to a horrible injury. How's he doing right now? Is he getting himself back to playing, or is his career completely done?
Yeah, that was 2 years ago. So it was November of 2018. Mackenzie Milton tore pretty much every ligament in his knee. Had some nerve damage. There was some thought that they had to amputate the leg. And believe it or not, we heard from the quarterback coach today, and Mackenzie is throwing. He's on the active roster. The quarterback coach told us today that his leg is stronger than it's ever been. We've seen videos of him running and jumping. UCF's being very mum about what'll happen with him, which I think is smart, right? You don't want to set expectations on the kid. You go from maybe losing a leg to getting back on the football field. I think you want to do that on your terms. I think UCF's letting him do that. There's some expectation that we'll see him on the field this year. Make no mistake about it, Dylan Gabriel is our starting quarterback. But I do think if there's a game where that gets out of hand closer to the end of the year, don't be surprised if Mackenzie gets out in the field and throws a few around or even takes a knee just to sort of take a bow in his UCF career. But if you're a UCF fan, this guy's an inspiration. Even if you're not a UCF fan,
right.
Look up his story and see what he went through. This kid's a fighter. He could have easily been like, you know what, screw it, I'm done with football. But, he fights every day. And I know if you're a football fan, you love to root for guys like this. And Mackenzie's one of those guys.
Yeah, Adam, I got to tell you, I love the brand of football UCF plays. Spread them out. You got a quarterback who can make good reads. And obviously throw the football, and he's coming back. But I want to ask you, when you look at this Georgia Tech team, whole new. I mean, Herbie and I, we've talked to even before last year. Paul Johnson, obviously their personnel this year fits. Where do you think that UCF could maybe struggle a little bit with Georgia Tech?
Well, I mean, they haven't played yet. And with COVID and everything going on, UCF is not unlike any college program. I know Georgia Tech and Jeff Collins are kind of the same. They are notoriously mum about information. I'm not even sure I know the real name of the head coach because they just don't give you any information. So we don't know what they've been doing. We don't know what they've been working on. We know they've been practicing lifting. But as with every program right now, with no media availability and no cameras there, you don't really know what they're working on. So first thing is rust. How much have they been hitting each other? I think we all saw the Navy debacle. I hate to say that about Navy, and I loved our armed forces and everything, but you saw the Navy debacle against BYU where we learned during the broadcast they neglected to tackle since January. So I hope UCF's not doing that. But I think that's the first thing is rust. Are they practicing? What are they working on? What are they doing? Second thing trips them up is, we've had some losses on the defense. We had our starting cornerback, Tate Gowan, opt out. And declare for the draft. He was a big part of the cornerback position. So we're going to be very young on the edges, which obviously is always a concern in the high-flying college football age. We've got some depth on the back end, but we're going to be very young up front on the cornerback spot. So I think those are the things that you concern yourself with defensively. Offensively, again, I feel like as long as we don't shoot ourselves in the foot, we'll put points up, right? We'll I think we had a streak of over 30 points for almost 2.5 seasons, so we'll put points up. If the defense can continue to hold firm, not make mistakes, and the young guys can step in, we have a fighter's chance. But we just don't know. We have no idea if they're rusty or not. And listen, Georgia Tech, I watched the game last week. They played well. Jeff Sims, a little UCF tie-in. I don't know if people know this. His uncle is Mike Sims Walker, who went to UCF. So a little tie into UCF there. We recruited him, but obviously he chose Florida State and then flipped that to Georgia Tech. So we lost out on that. The kid played well. Randy Shannon's the UCF defensive coordinator, so ACC folks will remember him from his Miami days. So we'll see if he can put something out there that's confusing, that can maybe make the kid think a little harder and pull the ball down and maybe make some bad decisions. We saw him throw 2 interceptions. Jeff Sims that was to Asante Samuel Jr. By the way, Asante Samuel went to UCF, so his son caught those 2 interceptions. So another UCF tie in there. But if Randy can confuse him, then we have a shot. We have some veterans up front. We're a NASCAR unit on the D line. We'll run guys in and out all day. But Georgia Tech, they want to muck the game up, and if they can muck the game up and ball possession and keep the ball from us, that's where UCF always gets in trouble.
Yeah, I think the funny thing you guys should do is with the videos for Central Florida, they should put Mickey and Minnie and everybody else on as their quarterback, and here's their game film, enjoy. Yeah, and just have Mickey and Minnie.
Yeah. I mean, listen, with the athletes we have outside, look, and I know people say every school, everybody you have on your show probably says we got a ton of athletes, right? I'm legit telling you, we've got athletes. We've got a guy who's 6'5", who runs like a 4.3 40. He can't catch to save his life, by the way, but he's the fastest guys you will see. We got a transfer from Oklahoma, Jalen Robinson.
Yes.
He's a small kid, but he's quick, he's fast. We have Trey Nixon, came to us from Ole Miss 2 years ago. He's another speedster. Our backfield, Otis Anderson, Greg McCray, 2 other guys who are speedsters. If we get guys in space, it's curtains. But again, we got to get those guys in space. And so I think, for us, Dylan Gabriel last year as a freshman didn't ask him to do much, really just keep us out of trouble. In the games we lost, unfortunately, he wasn't able to keep us out of trouble. But keep us out of trouble, and this year make even more dynamic plays with his legs and make better reads. I think again, we're not Mickey Mouse quite out back there, but I think you certainly could put a lot of guys back there and be successful.
Hey, real quick, I was getting my notes and my colleague was writing me. We're doing our prep, and he wrote Otis Anderson. And I'm thinking, is he watching the Giant game?
Hey, I'm a Giant fan. What do you want from me?
Because Otis Anderson was a Miami guy. Went to St. Louis Cardinals, got traded to the Giants in 1990. I'm looking at it going, did he just write Otis Anderson because he's watching the Giant game?
Yeah, that happens a lot. Yeah, that happens a lot. So no relation, so we know that for a fact. Our Otis spells his name with 1 T. The Giants' Otis was 2 T. So that's a good delineator. But that's a name. That's a name you're going to want to know. So the guy is what we call a Swiss Army knife. UCF lists him on a depth chart. Now, we didn't release the depth chart because, why would we do that? They list him as utility player. So he will run out of the backfield. He will split out wide. He had 31 catches last year. He also led us in rushing yards with 729 rushing yards. He will be all over the field. And UCF runs tempo. So he will line up in the backfield on the first play. He'll run a little route. They'll get to the line. They'll snap within 5 seconds. And he'll split out wide, and he'll be in the slot. He'll catch a pass. They'll come back. And this 3rd and 1, he's back in the backfield. They will move him around constantly. He wears number 2. If you're watching the game, you want to watch for him. He will be all over the place. He's a dynamic playmaker. If we get the ball in his hands, he's our punt return specialist as well. He's a name that you want to know going into this game against Georgia Tech.
Hey, Adam, most of the press obviously goes to offenses. We're wowed by points, but, this defense has quietly put up some good numbers. I mean, they only gave up 23 points per game. You touched on it a little bit with some players. Where are the strengths of this UCF defense?
Back end. So our safety unit, we have 2 really veteran guys back there, Richie Grant, Antoine Collier, both veteran players. They've been around. This is now both of their last years in the program, so they're veterans back there. Another guy named Aaron Robinson. He's kind of our nickel corner. UCF traditionally runs a 4-2-5, so he'll be on the field a bunch. Transfer from Alabama. This kid is just a wrecking ball. He's all over the field making plays. He'll cover in the slot. He'll cover out wide. So our back end is pretty good. Our front 4 is also pretty decent as well. Again, we've got some young guys, and we rotate a ton. So you will see it's not uncommon to see like a hockey line shift and see 4 guys run off and 4 guys run back on. So we've got some depth up front that, if the guys are getting pushed, that certainly is a strength. Our weaknesses would be linebackers. We don't have the biggest, strongest, fastest. We lost our leading tackler last year from the linebacker position. We have two pretty good players back there, but I think it's fair for UCF fans to say at least one of them hasn't really lived up to the hype that we thought. And we're young in the corners, but our back end and our front four, those are areas that certainly have been strengths, I guess I'll say, if not the strength. But I will say this: you mentioned the defense. Randy Shannon. We heard from him today. One thing he wants to work on is our red zone defense. Our red zone defense last year was not strong. We went from, I think, 90th in the country in 2018 on third down to 5th in the country this last season on third down. But if it's in the red zone, we struggled mightily in the red zone. So I think that's an area that Randy's talked about improving. So I guess we'll see early on if he's been able to make strides with that.
Yes. Well, Adam, thanks for joining us. Real quick, what is the Sons of UCF? What do you guys do?
Yeah, Sons of UCF. So myself and my co-host were UCF alums. About 2 years ago, we started the show, and we've been doing it every week now for 2 years. We have a lot of great guests that come on our show. We do game breakdowns. Actually, yesterday we recorded our last episode. We were lucky to have former UCF and former Georgia Tech head coach George O'Leary join us for about 35 minutes. So if you guys want to check that out, you can find us on any social media feed. Search us at Sons of UCF on Twitter. We're also on any podcast platform. If you're into this game, George O'Leary obviously played for both. He's going into the Hall of Fame for Georgia Tech on Saturday. So if you want to find out who he's rooting for, you can search up Sons of UCF, and we'll let him tell you. He'll tell you himself.
Nice.
That's great. All right, Adam. Thanks so much. Have a great evening.
Thanks, guys. Take care.
Appreciate you.
All right, folks. That show is over. Thanks for joining us. I want to say thank you for the folks at the ACC Network and the NBC Sports and for the highlights. Also, the media departments of North Carolina, Boston College, Louisville, and Miami for letting us use their clips today. So thanks for letting us borrow them. So usually we'll see you next Wednesday night, and we'll pick the next week. I think we got great games: Florida State, Miami. You pick, I'll do.
Yes, and for all of our viewers out there, take Georgia Tech in the points. They're gonna hang tough. Love you, buddy.
All right, man. See you. All right, folks. Have a great evening. Thanks for joining us. We'll put up in the show. Have a great night, everybody.
Yeah.